Thank you and welcome to the show today. The topic is the perception of race and nationality in the United States. And we have with us to talk about race and nationality in the United States and perhaps in the Americas, Dr. ESchmeller1. Dr. ESchmeller1 is a professor at Tennessee State University in the Department of History, Government, and Political Science. And of course, Dr. ESchmeller1, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And to tell you, Dr. ESchmeller1, how delighted we are to have you and to talk about a topic that I believe to be very, very important, and a topic that I understand that you spent more than 7 years dealing with in writing your book.
Yes.
The perceptions of race and nationality in the United States. And what we'd like for you to do, Dr. ESchmeller1, is to take some of the information from your book and to talk to us this morning about race and nationality and how race and nationality has played a significant role in the history of the United States and indeed the history of the world, because you know, you do have that kind of information in your book. And but before we do that, to talk about race and nationality from that perspective, let's have you, Dr. ESchmeller1, to talk about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important that eventually led you to Tennessee State University and in a real sense served as a motivation for you to write a book on such a topic.
Okay. Well, I was born in Hays, Kansas, out in the middle of western Kansas, and both my parents were teachers. My father was a history professor, like you and myself, and my mother was a English teacher in the high schools. I went to university at a smaller liberal arts college out there, Fort Hays State University. Made my way to graduate school. I'd started a teaching career. I got certified to teach English and history and went on to graduate studies. Wanted to do a little more, I guess, deeper study. And while at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale as a teaching assistant in the Department of History, I noticed that in class discussions, race frequently was the issue. And Southern Illinois University is pretty interesting. It's got, as a state school, it has a fairly large minority population, probably the largest of any of the state schools in Illinois. So there were usually a few black students in the class, and I noticed every time we got to the issue of slavery, which as a fellow American historian, you know, does come up a lot, there were awkward silences, and when the discussion did kind of get moving, it seemed like the students didn't have information on it, didn't know how to kind of talk about it. How did it become slavery? Is this racism that is part of slavery is necessary? And I guess I just felt like I needed, if I was going to be a successful teacher, I needed to know more
about race.
Yeah, and how it developed. So my dissertation topic directly kind of fed into my teaching, and that's what this book is ultimately. It's the dissertation cleaned up quite a bit and made into the topic. And I focused on travel writers, particularly from America and Great Britain. Easy to access and fairly enjoyable reading. And I wanted to use a variety of travel writers, not just white travelers, because I'm talking about race, and I wanted a kind of a fuller perspective. And in my American history studies, one of the first things we did in an upper division course was read David Walker and David Walker's Appeal. And I know you're familiar with him and his kind of very aggressive kind of stance, and most students were shocked by this. You know, 1830, here's this black man who's free, who's calling for revolution and killing whites, and in there's a passage, and he says that the English are the best friends to the colored people. Even though they've abused us, we can still kind of rely on them. And that kind of piqued my interest. So was there a difference between the way the English looked at black people as opposed to the way Americans did? So I used some black travelers and some white travelers, going back and forth to see how they kind of, you know, when they're in England, did William Wells Brown, black abolitionist, did he notice a difference? Did he feel like he was treated differently? and kind of went from there. And that was kind of the origins of the book.
And of course, Dr. Schmeller, what we're getting ready for the first commercial break, after which we'll come back and we'll have you to talk about the whole issue of race and exactly where do you meet race for the first time as an historian, and exactly what are some of the dimensions of the racism that you meet, and to sort of lay it out in terms of the coming together of various cultures and how this dealt with the issue of race. And I would be especially concerned about some of the more formal kinds of things about miscegenation and that kind of aspect in reference to race, because I think that that will become a very, very important part of many studies dealing with this whole issue. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.